Nice move. Another shot.
One enemy remaining.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat.
Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
I'm returning to Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here,
and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em! It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
What's up?
Hello and welcome to the BCSN Sports Wrap live on a Sunday afternoon. Guess it's going into the evening, actually. Brian Fulford here and AD Drew. How you doing, AD?
Doing fine, my brother. Doing fine. Following what I dubbed as the What the F weekend in HBCU football.
Yeah, see, I keep trying to find a more family-friendly show title for this one. So we'll see how this one carries.
I'm gonna give you one better than that. You know, I was on the Savannah State Erskine play-by-play on yesterday, and the Erskine's nickname are the Flying Fleet. You have to be careful when saying that fast, not to say flying something else. And
that's what I almost said. I almost said that.
Yes, and we both slowed down every time we said flying fleet, not to say flying something else on the air. And we got through it, thank God.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to I'm looking at this my screen here. My screen's real pixelated here, Drew, as I'm looking at you. I'm trying to figure out why that is, but maybe that's just a my problem, a me problem. I have to figure it out. Hey, so yeah, as we try to work through the little things here, we're trying to figure out what a good name for this episode is. You know, defense travels. You know, I want to try to work in something about a scooter, something about a homecoming beating, because we did have a couple of strong defenses that traveled on the road,
and we did have a couple of homecoming beatings also.
Yeah. So this was the first. I guess this was the first full October where we had. I didn't do the count on how many homecomings we had this past weekend. I don't know. Did you happen to do a count?
Nah, but I guarantee you, during one of these breaks, you or I are going to honor Dan and find out what that number is and get some updated numbers on that.
Right, right. And for those who care, my sinuses are still bothering me, although it's getting a little bit better. So hopefully, if you're playing the how many times does Brian wipe his nose drinking game at home, there's one for you, and we'll see how
Over
far
under
this
is
goes.
5.
Oh, it's going 5. It's going over 5. So get the bottle right next to the to the monitor here. Hey, if you're watching our show on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter, hey, make sure you are signed in, subscribe to our YouTube page. If you would, go ahead and subscribe to that JBN YouTube page for us. Give us a like as well. We appreciate it. Also, if you happen to watching us on Facebook, go ahead and give us a like there too. And go ahead and retweet if you're watching this on Twitter. And a little bit later, you can tune in and watch our show, or actually listen to our show on the BCSN Pod Zone or the BCSN SportsWrap podcast feed. Just look for that anywhere that you download and listen to podcasts. And go get that Jericho Broadcast Networks app. Just search my JBN or my BCSN, and that's where you can find that.
Brian,
and so,
like, subscribe, share, download, donate.
That needs to be a tag.
You just said in 5 words.
We need a tag like right down there that says that very thing. Where's the camera at? Right there. You see what you just said? We need to just have that as a flashing banner that just comes across the screen. You know, we'll work on that for future. Maybe outside of one of the breaks, we'll have that come through. 12 homecoming games from this past weekend. And so we're going to go. Let's start with the first big homecoming game. And that happened to be in Huntsville, Alabama. And matter of fact, let me give a quick plug, because coming up at the bottom of the hour, our good friend Mo Carter from WZDX in Huntsville, Alabama, he was there on the field, got a firsthand visual of the beating that Alabama A&M took to Jackson State. Drew, Jackson State is on a revenge tour right now. I got another name for it, which I'm not going to share right at the moment.
Ourselves right now until we release that name. How about that?
Yeah, but I'm just going to call it the JSU Revenge Tour right now. be very watch out, Alabama State. That's all I'm going to say, because I had a feeling after the first quarter, and as that game moved on, that they were going to put 60 on the board. The starters were not coming out of that game until 60 was on the board. And sure enough, once they hit 61, that's when the next group came on. So it was just a dominating performance from the opening possession. That defense, James Houston for Jackson State forced a fumble, then scoop and scores the opening possession of Alabama A&M of the game. Then on Alabama A&M's second possession, Jackson State holds them and forces them to punt. And next minute, you know, bada boom, bada bing, Warren Newman returns a punt for a touchdown. And Drew, I'm telling you, man, it just, the route was on from there. What surprised you in that game?
Besides the score?
Sure.
Just the total dominance by Jackson State. First of all, and I don't know if this is the product of the opponent or the product of the new offensive coordinator, or the new play caller, the fact that Jackson State found a run game against Alabama A&M. So that was something that was totally shocking to me. And on the flip side, we knew Alabama A&M's run game was not good, but
wait a minute. Whoa,
maybe a better word.
I won't say it's not good. I think Gary Quarles is one of the top running backs in the SWAC.
Numbers have not proved out to that, which to me It's one of the reasons why Alabama A&M has always let teams back into the game during the second half is because as a team, they cannot close the game by running the ball to shorten the game. Now, part of that is due to style. Alabama A&M is going to throw the ball 50, 55, 60 times a game. That's just how they play. But when they give the ball to Quarles, it's either hit or miss. He's one of the top rushers because it's like baseball. It's either a home run or a strikeout.
Well, let me
There's
clean
no
this up, Drew.
singles, there are no doubles.
Let me clean this up before you get hammered by a bunch of folks from Alabama A&M. Gary Quarles is actually leading the conference in rushing in terms of yardage at 478, leading the conference in rush attempts with 100. He's one shot off the lead in terms of touchdowns rushing. He has 4. And rushing yards per game, he's at 95.6. Would you care to make any kind of retraction on that statement? I just say that before you get hammered by Alabama A&M.
I still am not, because Alabama A&M in the second half cannot rush the ball. When everybody is dropping back into coverage with 6, 7 defensive backs to try to stop Aquil Glass from passing the ball, you can go for 60 yards a game just running the ball up the middle when everybody is starting 10 yards back and having to come get you, Brian. But
not
Alabama's
me.
A&M,
I'm more of a power back.
Look, the Alabama A&M line has not produced this year. And when I say
their pass
line,
protection has not been
that's
great.
on both sides of the ball.
Pass protection has not been great.
Both sides of the ball. Offensive and defensive line have not produced for Alabama A&M on a consistent basis this year.
I'll agree with you there.
They have the skill players. Sure. I don't think anyone in the SWAC, maybe in HBCU football, has a better set of skilled players than Alabama A&M on the offensive side of the ball. But it takes more than the best quarterback that we've seen since Steve McNair or Tavares Jackson, a trio of top receivers, and a running back who is a home run hitter, who can hit home runs any point in time. It's going to take more than that. And Jackson State was not afraid to put 7 in the box after Glass, to come after Glass and put some pressure on Glass. Unlike most teams in the SWAC who want to drop 7 into coverage to try to slow Glass out and keep the play in front of them. That's a part of Coach Prime and his philosophy, and Coach Thurman and their philosophy. They have the corners who can cover one-on-one out there. That's why they can bring 7 and put that pressure on Glass. The glass was broken on yesterday.
Oh, ding for the glass is broken cliche there, Drew. You can get and there's a new drinking game for how many glasses broken cliches can we drop into this show. There's one. I'm going over under 4 today. But look at the numbers here. I thought the most amazing stat was Jackson State got 10 sacks. And Glass still threw, at one point in the first half, he was maybe 14 of 17, I think, in the first half passing. Didn't have a particularly bad day passing, but then you go look deep into the numbers. He got sacked 8 times. The backup got sacked 2 more times. That's 10 total sacks by Jackson State. They had 2 fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, no interceptions. Now, Jackson's the one thing that I think, if you're going to harp on anything. Oh, and then should I mention on offense? You mentioned that running game showed up for Jackson State. Santee Marshall, who I don't think he's the normal starter at the running back position. I think I can't think of the other young man's name who has started some of the previous games, but Marshall did a good job. 12 carries, 122 net yards, 2 scores. He had a long of 53. Jackson State overall had 496 total yards of offense. Then add on, they had 16 penalties for 146 yards. So just the dominance by Jackson State on defense and just the havoc that they were able to create. That's 2 weeks in a row that now Grambling's defense it's not bad. I mean, I don't know if it's on Jackson State level, but I'd say it's one of the, if you had to probably rank the top 4 defenses in the SWAC, I think Grambling might be top 4, might be 3, 4, one of those two. Might fall in there definitely behind FAMU, might fall in there behind Prairie View. But I put Grambling up there, so that's what Alabama A&M faced, and then they had to play Jackson State, and then now they got to go up against FAMU, and so Coach Mainer's worries back in preseason, Drew, about this period in October are coming true because he knew Grambling was going to be tough. He knew Jackson State was going to be tough, and next week they've got FAMU. That's going to be tough as well, and their whole season has now been reduced to possibly playing spoilers, just trying to finish on positive notes and maybe put up stats and yards because they are so far they're so far out of it in terms of having opportunity to win the East. You're now probably 3 games behind Jackson State now, and there are only 6 games remaining. So, Jackson State would have to go on a major loss.
Yeah. Well, two things. Let's talk about Alabama A&M's defense. 4 of the 5 opponents that Alabama A&M has played this year have scored their season high against Alabama A&M. That's number one. Number 2, and we talked about this when we talked a couple hours ago. Valley is the only team in the East outside of Jackson State who controls their own destiny. Michael Washington, I told you Valley was going to wind up being relevant in the East this year.
Valley?
I didn't think it was going to be this early that we was going to see that relevance. But Valley is the only team in the East who controls their own destiny outside of Jackson State.
I want a Mike Washington apology on Tuesdays inside the HBCU Sports Lab out of respect for my guy Drew, because he tried to tell y'all, but you mocked him and you laughed at Drew when he told you to watch out for Valley.
Go ahead and put those comments in, and I'll explain to you later on in the show how Valley controls its own destiny.
Look, we'll get more into the Jackson State Alabama A&M game with Mo Carter coming up, but let's switch to that because Valley goes on the road and talk about another visitor ruining a homecoming. That's what they did. They traveled out to Daytona Beach, Bethune-Cookman, and trailing 14-7 going into the fourth quarter, managed to put up 2 scores real early in the fourth quarter, and defense just held. Forced beat Bethune-Cookman 20-14. Bethune had 479 of total yards of offense. 479, and came away. Now, here's the kicker, though. Time of possession, Valley, 38 minutes. Time of possession compared to Bethune's 17. So, Valley now has won 2 games in a row, which if I recall the tweet that I saw from HBCU Sports, it's the first time since 2012 and that was like November 2012, that Valley has won consecutive games in the season. I think that may have even been consecutive games in the SWAC back in 2012, but we're just talking consecutive games in a season. So congratulations to Coach Dancy, and you get the win last week on the last play of the game, probably against North Carolina Central. Then you go down to Bethune and snatch a victory down there. Drew, you called it, man. I got to give you props. You called it.
All right, here we go, Brian. My first Who to Thunk It award. I know we're going to get to some of these later. Who to Thunk It back in July. Yes, I said thunk. that Texas Southern and Valley would have more victories than Bethune and UAPB
combined.
Individually, those
yeah.
two teams individually have more victories than UAPB and Bethune combined.
It's true. That's true.
Yes. And now, how does Valley control its own destiny? There are three teams on the east side with one loss. One of those teams has already played Jackson State, that being FAMU. So Jackson State owns the tiebreaker against Florida A&M, correct?
Yes.
Alabama State also has one loss. They are yet to play Jackson State. But if Alabama State were to beat Jackson State, they have created a three-way tie, which means they do not control their own destiny. Now you have to get into the tiebreakers and all the different math and rankings and all that stuff. Who has time to figure out that garbage, right, Brian?
Not me, not us.
Okay. Valley, who has yet to play Alabama State and Jackson State. They defeat Alabama State, they will give Alabama State their second loss. They defeat Florida A&M, they would give Florida A&M their second loss. And if they defeat Jackson State, they would give Jackson State their first loss on the east side. They defeat all those along with Jackson State. Who owns the tiebreaker against Jackson State because of the head-to-head? Mississippi Valley. Everybody else will have at least two losses at that point.
True.
Valley is relevant.
I can hear Mike Washington now. Valley? Yeah.
Valley?
Drew, you're crazy. I can see it now.
I just can't wait to read these comments when we go to break, Brian.
Hey, just going inside the numbers, because I think when you go back and look at the stats and try to say, well, how did that game play out the way it did? And I mentioned the time of possession. Valley rushed the ball 48 times for a total of 223 yards in that ball game. Caleb Johnson with 102, Jelani Eason with 56 net yards. But really, you look at the total number of first downs, Mississippi Valley State 23 to 16. It was really just the run. Again, Bethune put up 479 yards of offense, the second highest production in the conference, next to what Jackson State did in Huntsville on the same day. But only one of those two teams got a win. So, the numbers, the turnovers, each team had an interception. Neither team lost a fumble or had a fumble to speak of. I mean, the penalty yardage, Bethune had 8 penalties for 64 yards. Valley 4. They punted 6 times, Bethune did. Valley punted 5 times. It just came down to possessions. I mean, really the big stat, if I had to circle one, Drew, third down conversions, drive extenders. Mississippi Valley was 8 of 15 on third down. Bethune was 2 of 10. So, and Valley was 1 for 1 on fourth down. Bethune was 0 for 1. So when you look at opportunities to extend drives and keep the clock moving, that's what Mississippi Valley did. And so they're now that they've won 2 in a row, their upcoming schedule, they've got Alcorn State this upcoming Saturday. Then a matter of fact, they're hosting 3 games in a row. So this is an interesting schedule, Quark. They're hosting 4 of the next 5 games. They host Alcorn, they host FAMU, they host Jackson State, they travel to A&M, and then they host Alabama State. So there's your next 5 games. Those are all, 4 of the 5 are Eastern Conference games. So like you said, Drew, they control their destiny and they're hosting games. So that's pretty impressive. Hey, let's take a break because we got another upset to talk about related to this was a neutral site game related to a game took place in the SWAC. So we want to get this in before we get to our conversation with Mo Carter coming up a little bit later. So we're going to step away for a short moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Brian and AD. We'll be back in just a moment.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Another shot.
One enemy remaining.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian and AD here, and we are live and direct on a Sunday evening, just reacting to some of the games. Week number 6, we're at the halfway point of the HBCU season. We're pretty much on the downside, going this game forward. I want to give a shout out to Carolyn Sharp out there. We appreciate you, Carolyn, for signing up for that JBN app. We appreciate you. And you too, if you're out there watching us or as you listen to the podcast, when you do listen to the podcast, go ahead and download that Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Go to your Google or Apple Play Store, My JBN or My BCSN, and that's where you can find it. How about Texas Southern and Southern University? Now, I don't know what the pre-line was, Drew. You were keeping up with that. What was the number on that game? Do you recall?
I think that game actually got up to 12. I know it was double digits. I do not remember what the over-under was on that line, but Southern was giving 12.
Southern was a 12-point favorite in a neutral site game. I'm looking at it. There are several books. It was floating anywhere from as low as 11 up to 12.5. So that's with I don't have the number on the over on the total, but playing a Texas Southern team that I don't know if technically they're 0-3 because last week's win against North American University, was it?
Yeah, yes, that did not count.
Yeah, it technically did not count on their record, but it counted in their heart. And as Dr. Kenyatta Cavill had said, that game meant a lot. And it showed up the next week because they got that win on homecoming. And so they went out in Arlington on a neutral site. Now they played that game in the old baseball stadium where the Texas Rangers used to play. And now that contest ends up counting. Obviously, it's a SWAC West contest, and Texas Southern basically found a way to win that ball game against Southern with a 35-31 game victory. Looking at we were in the middle of our watch party as that game was going on, and I was kind of paying attention to the score as that game went on. It was pretty much back and forth. It was a very even ball game. If you go back and look at the totals, there was only the second quarter in which Texas Southern got a touchdown, and Southern came out of that drive or their possession that quarter with a field goal. But I want to bring your attention, Drew, to the fourth quarter, because in the fourth quarter, with the score, and I'm going to make sure I get this right, with Southern leading 34-30, right? Make sure I have this. I want to pull this, make sure I pull this drive up. 34-30, Southern's leading, and Southern ends up getting into a situation with a 4th and 1 on, I believe it was their own 44, right? Their own 44, their own side of the ball. Now, usually, Drew, if you're in that territory on the 44, now you have a lead, right? What
Correct.
are you usually
Conventional
thinking?
wisdom tells you punt them, make them go the distance.
Right, field position, right? Field position, flip the field, punt. Now, I don't know if the punter, remember when UAPB didn't kick for a field goal on Thursday night? We all wondered, why? Why would you not kick the field goal and get points? And then you find out later that there was a kicker. So before we go and blast Coach Jason Rollins, and I haven't read all the reports yet, and figure out what happened, and maybe BJ Jones will shed light when he comes on later after our show inside HBCU Football, rather, when his show comes on tonight. Maybe he'll break that down as to why Southern punted, okay, or did not punt. But they decided to go for it on 4th and 1. And maybe it's because they're Southern and they're saying, hey, we should be able to get a first down. You know what? Mo Carter might
and they should have been able to get a first down.
They should have been able to, but you know what? They did not. Defense travels. Texas Southern got to stop. Probably surprised the heck out of Southern that they got to stop, given how many points were being thrown around in that contest. But defense showed up when it needed to show up. And so with the ball then flipped on their own 44-yard line, Texas Southern needed to go only 8 plays on 44 yards to score the go-ahead touchdown and leave 39 seconds on the clock. And I believe, Drew, if I'm looking at the time right, and I want to make sure I get this right, they left how much time did they leave on the clock on that series? I had it pulled up earlier. Probably about 3:11. Yep. They left 3:11 on the clock when they went out on downs. Okay. So Texas Southern turns around, goes 44 yards in 8 plays, led by freshman quarterback Andrew Body. Make sure I have that name right because that's a name that you're going to make sure you want to know. Quarterback from Texas Southern. Threw 2 complete passes, positive yards. He threw another complete pass, but it went negative yards. Then his big play was he rushed 21 yards, got to the Southern 4-yard line. On next play, they punch it in for a touchdown, leave 39 seconds on the clock. And it just goes for, in terms of statistics, Andrew Body had a great night, I thought. When you look at his numbers, passing wise, he was 28 of 35, 338 yards. That's an 80% completion percentage, Drew. 80%. He did get sacked twice. He did have 2 fumbles that he lost, but then he had a total net of 85 rushing yards on 16 carries. His longest run was the biggest run, that 21-yarder to get to the 4, and then Texas Southern ends up punching it in for a score and takes the lead 35-31. And pretty much that was all she wrote from there.
Brian,
yeah,
you are so diplomatic. Let's
I
be
try
real
to
on
be.
why they went for it on 4th down. As an Indianapolis Colts fan, you know what I'm about to describe. Monday Night Football.
Most
Tom
infamous
Brady.
4th down folly. Yep.
Yes, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Bill Belichick went for it. I believe he was about the 34, 36-yard line. It was somewhere. It was 30-something yard line. Just over 2 minutes to go in the ball game. Patriots were leading at the time. Bill Belichick did not want to give Peyton Manning the ball back. So he figures if he goes for it on 4th down, he gets the 1st down, he could then run out the clock. Colts defense stopped the Patriots. Manning goes down, scores the touchdown, does not give Tom Brady time to come down and score against the Colts. And Colts go on to win that game. And was that the Super Bowl year? The Colts won the Super Bowl, if I remember correctly. I think that was
Yes,
2006.
because we did end
Because
up
that wound up
that
being
made
the
a
difference
difference
between
in
home
how
field.
we ended up hosting. Exactly. That is
Yes.
how the Colts ended up hosting the AFC Championship game against New England. Yes.
And how they finally got over the hurdle against New England.
Yes, because we had not won an AFC Championship in New England. We were like 0-4 going to New
Correct.
England in AFC Championship games.
Same thing.
Same thing.
The defense, well, the same thing was he just knew the defense was not going to stop them. He had a better chance to win that game by keeping the ball. You know, conventional wisdom say punt the ball, but the new metrics that everybody use says keep the ball. I'd rather have the ball than give it to you. I have much more control of my outcome if I have the pigskin. I cannot blame Rollins for making that decision, except for the execution of it.
Well, he called it. The coach called it. The coach called the play.
That's what I said. You called. That's what I said. The execution. I could blame the execution. I cannot blame the decision making going into the call and the why he made that call. Now the call may be suspect, but the why they made that call, I 100% agree with it. Let's not forget about the infamous challenge of the challenge in that game.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? It's good that we're talking about this game because joining us right now is a Southern University football alum, our good friend Mo Carter from WZDX in Huntsville, Alabama, and we're going to bring Mo in, and maybe Mo can share his thoughts on why Southern would go for it in the 4th quarter, 3:11 left to play,
with the lead.
Leading with the lead. Mo, thank you for coming on the SportsWrap. How you doing, Mo?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Interesting week, for HBCU football, and I actually caught part of your conversation about this Southern situation. It's kind of funny. I kind of ran from the Alabama A&M game to get to my desk here at work and started listening to the Southern game. And it was kind of like, what in the world just happened in this situation out there in Texas? And I actually talked to some people about it, and I think opinions differ from this and that.
Well, Mo, and I hate that we hate the fact that we got to bring you in on this. I hate to do that to you. But while you're here, we're just trying to make sense of the philosophy behind it. I know there was a lot of points going on back and forth, and Drew's right. Maybe he felt like I don't know how you feel this way against Texas Southern. I don't know. This is Texas Southern, right? This is, and all due respect to, Tiger Nation, but it's not like Texas Southern over the last decade has had a great history against SWAC opponents. So when we go to this statement about Southern feeling like they couldn't get a stop, when we go to this thought about Southern, that's all right. When we go to this thought about Southern can't get a stop, I can't buy that. I can't. That's hard for me to swallow. You as a former player, Mo, how does that sound? And when you hear that, just that thought, and I don't know if people you talk to had a similar thought.
Yeah, so I kind of been texting a few of my former teammates, a couple of defensive guys, and I actually talked to Jericho Joseph, who's a sports reporter in Baton Rouge. We all kind of agreed that, yeah, Southern's defense that we saw in the spring that was dominating has not translated over to the fall for the current season that we happen here. And, of course, you kind of look at the numbers, and right now, defensively, they're not doing too well. So when you go back and look at yesterday's game or whatever, I mean, Coach Rollins wanted to put the confidence in his offense to get that first down and basically run the clock out after that. And unfortunately, the challenge of the challenge caused them not to get the first down after they had been awarded the first down at first. With that, even Coach Pete Richardson on the radio broadcast said that he'd never seen anything ever in all of his years of football ever take place like that situation there. But he actually kind of agreed that, yeah, defense had not been playing well. Remember, Coach Richardson's a defensive guy, too. So apparently Coach Rollins just saw something to say, look, you know what, let's just kind of end it right here because we know we can run the clock out in that situation. So to kind of see Southern's defense in the situation where they are right now, I am kind of dumbfounded because, Southern, the dog day D, that has been the chant for years. That has been the roll call when it comes to that unit for the blue and gold, just has not been showing up. And it definitely showed yesterday, especially when they don't get the first down after the challenge. And then they fail to stop Texas Southern from scoring to give them the final lead. So definitely a huge gut punch to Southern University's football team and really the Jaguar Nation yesterday. They had beat Texas Southern like 9 straight times, and to lose like that yesterday definitely was tough.
Drew, explain to people that challenge the scenario, because there may be people who aren't familiar with what happened there in that challenge scenario.
The only thing that I can see, and trust me, I've never used a challenge system when I officiate. I've done plenty of high school football. I've been on the sidelines for some college football, but never made it to the field for college football. But the only thing that I could see was the initial challenge had to be for something besides the spot of the ball. So when they ruled on that challenge, that was probably a booth challenge called down to the field, say, hey, we need y'all to come take a look at it to see ABC. I don't know what it was because I have not seen the film of that game, so I don't know what the initial challenge would have been. They ruled on that challenge. Then the coach's challenge was, hey, we don't like that spot of the ball. We challenge the actual spot of the ball after you all have ruled on the initial challenge. That's the only way that I can put in this head how you can challenge a challenge. Because it has to be on two separate things. Because once they rule it, either and you know what the ruling is. It's inconclusive. What are the famous calls? The inconclusive, confirmed, or no visual evidence, or
the ruling on the field stands.
The ruling on the field stands is called. And depending on which of those phrases that they use tells you how good of a replay that they had, or the ruling has been reversed, obviously. So those are the only things to say. And what we got on that call was none of the above. No explanation. We moving the ball. First down, go the other way. Yada yada yada. Let's go and score. Let's go and score. And Brian, one other thing I wanted to bring up before we jump on the Alabama A&M game. Just call that fence, because there was no D in that game with over 1,000 yards between the two. 1,100 yards between the two teams. I'm surprised both teams only scored in the 30s, given how little defense was played in that game.
Yeah.
I can agree with you. And as a matter of fact, Coach Pete Richardson said the same thing in his recap on the radio broadcast. He was actually surprised that more points weren't scored. And also, he did mention that Texas Southern left a few opportunities out on the field that they could have probably scored as well. So you definitely could have seen a higher score. As far as your explanation of what you just gave, I think that's about the best explanation that I've probably gotten when it comes to everything that happened yesterday or whatever. I'm really hoping that somebody from the SWAC office will be at least able to send some kind of email out explaining what the
Yes.
heck happened or whatever from there. Now, and the reason why I say that, they have done it in the past, so I'm really hoping that we can see something in the next day or two, from that.
That happened. That play happened in that final drive. Correct. That was the final drive there. And again, just for those who don't know, we were just talking about that fourth down play. And I'm just reading right here from out of the Advocate, Jim Klein Peters report here. And those of you who watch the Carlos Brown show on Saturdays, Jim is a regular contributor on that show. So I'm reading right from his article. The pivotal play first reviewed for the spot, and officials said it was TSU's ball near midfield. Rollins asked for a measurement, and officials reversed the call, giving the ball to Southern. But TSU coach Clarence McKinney challenged the ruling, and officials called for another review that showed the original spot was incorrect. So, in essence, you're challenging the challenge. So
It's the challenge
the
of the
first
challenge.
ruling.
Yeah.
It's like again. The SWAC somebody has to come out from the SWAC offices and send. So I don't know if that should have already happened, but if it hasn't, somebody should be coming out and maybe hopefully they begin the media press run that they have on Mondays with the coaches. We hope that starts because there needs to be some clarification on that because that may have cost Southern an opportunity at winning the West. We don't know yet. Obviously, still a lot of football to be played. But if they lose by a game, you're going to look back at that and you're going to say, "What the okay?"
Yeah, what the F we in college football is what I say. And Brian, keep something else in mind as we move on. This is not like this is a championship game that we were watching in the SWAC. So there were not 12 camera angles like you see on when the game's on the big boy ESPN. You may have had 4 or 5 different camera angles. So who knows where that camera was in relation to the angle that they used to make spot 1 and spot 2. So we're just going to leave it at that. Now, let's move on to Bulldog Nation.
All right, Mo, what the F happened in Huntsville, Alabama? What happened? From your viewpoint, where did things go? I mean, I look, here's my thought. I thought Coach Maynard did a great job of trying to have fun with this game and try to bring the hype. I think it kind of went south on him a little bit because Coach Prime didn't want to play along. And so it kind of went negative. But then the game started, and I think all of that got bundled up and just to a beating. And I told somebody about midway through that game that Prime wasn't going to move those starters out of the game until they got to 60. What's your take on what you saw from the field level and then in the post game?
Okay, so when I think about everything overall, just in general, it's kind of funny. So I was on the pregame show with your buddy Charles Bishop. I also was a guest on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, and I also was a guest on Carlos Brown this past week. I kind of said the same thing. I'm like, hey, here are your keys to victory for Alabama A&M. Here's your keys to victory for Jackson State. I'm not saying that Jackson State definitely paid attention to all that, but everything I said, they came out and they did. I said Alabama A&M needed to protect the football. And what happens? First drive, they are rolling. They've got momentum. Then they get stripped, sacked for a touchdown. not only did you not protect the football, but you also was losing the turnover battle and you were losing on the scores early on. Another thing I said too is that you got to protect Aquil Glass. That did not happen. Jackson State walked away with 10 sacks on the day. Another thing I said for Jackson State probably to do to find success is that they have to find a rushing game. Well, I go and look at the stats. Jackson State finishes the game with a whopping 247 yards on the ground. And they weren't doing anything special. They were literally just punching Alabama A&M in the mouth from the get-go. And honestly, Alabama A&M just never adjusted to what ended up happening on yesterday. I will say this. My hat goes to Coach Deion Sanders and his team for putting together the perfect game plan to beat Alabama A&M. It's not so much that Alabama A&M played a bad game. You look at the stats or whatever, they did some good things, but Jackson State did things 5-6 times better or whatever when it came to that. And Alabama A&M never had a response for what Jackson State would do after they scored a touchdown or had a score or did this or did that. They never did that. The whopping thing, too, that really got to me was that Alabama A&M's offensive line got whipped up front. And out of those 10 sacks, maybe 2 of those sacks, Jackson State actually sent more than 4 guys. So you think about this. 4 defensive linemen were whipping 5 guys at a time. Majority of the day. They could not get the rushing attack going with Garrett Crawls because they were basically hitting him by the time he was getting the ball. And, I mean, the pressure was just there from the beginning and really all the way to the end on that. So, yeah, you know, Jackson State's defense, they are definitely for real. They are ranked number 1 in multiple categories in the SWAC for a reason, and they definitely showed it on yesterday. And, yeah, I mean, the score definitely showed the reflection that, hey, Jackson State, number 1 team ranked this week in the HBCU polls and various polls. They're in a good spot or whatever, and they've got the momentum. So it's going to be kind of tough to beat these guys during the second half of the season, in my opinion.
Mo, do you think the players bought into the look? I think Maynard tried to take away some of the attention from his players after their performance against Grambling. I think that again, going back to the stuff with the scooter and all that, I think that was him taking on some of that, so that way you don't go ask a bunch of questions or you don't put a lot of things onto the players, because yes, those same problems that Jackson State exposed showed up last week against Grambling. So there's something to that. Were the players, I mean, I know it's homecoming. Jackson State, they were excited for this game. Was Alabama A&M as excited for this game?
I mean, you would think with it being homecoming, a battle of 2 of the top HBCUs in the nation, going back and forth, very key matchup within the East Division, you would think that would be the case. You would think those leaders on the A&M football team like Aquil Glass and Brian Jenkins Jr. and Quarles and all those other guys or whatever would have been excited and hyped. And Jackson State came in there and they took away their will to win early. And yeah, I think Coach Maynard did a good job trying to take a whole lot of whatever and try to put it on him. But at the same time, I don't think his football team rallied around him the way Jackson State's football team rallied around Coach Deion Sanders and his approach for the the game that happened on yesterday. And you kind of definitely saw it or whatever. Because, I mean, the atmosphere was magical. I mean, the overall attendance was like 21,835. Or something close to that nature. It was the second largest attendance ever at Lewis Cruz Stadium, only behind the 1998 game that featured Alabama A&M and Southern, which was the transitional year for Alabama A&M as they were going from D2 to D1 in 1998. So, I mean, the crowd was there, the hype was there, a whole lot of things were there. ESPN was there, Jay and Tiffany were there, and Alabama A&M, man, they just did not show up, and Jackson State
Ric Flair was there.
Yeah, Ric Flair was there
the
too,
Nature
man.
Boy was in the house.
Ric Flair was there. So, I mean, Ric Flair was there. Ruben Studdard was there. Cameo was here, man. I mean, there was a whole lot of people here in Huntsville, and Alabama A&M did not show up or whatever on the right plays. Now, I will go back to this. The play that changed the entire narrative was that strip sack by James Houston of Aquil Glass. He came untouched, hit him, stripped him, took it back 67 yards for a touchdown. A&M was rolling down the field with
Yeah.
some impressive catches and some impressive first downs on that drive. And really, that was the thing that really took away the life of Alabama A&M. Really, I think that play right there, because you kind of just saw the air go out the balloon a little bit, and then it just kept going more and more and more. And all of a sudden, we're in the middle of the second half, second quarter, and it's like 30-7, 33-7. It's some crazy number. You're kind of like, what the heck is going on here? Seriously. So that's really what happened or whatever. And I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, Jackson State came in and played a great game. They showed why they are who they are, and Alabama A&M definitely has to go back to the drawing board.
Yep. Go ahead, Drew.
All right, Mo. Last time I checked in college athletics, there's no trade deadline where you can go out and acquire players. There's no waiver wire where you can pick up a veteran who's just sitting out there. 2 losses in a row for Alabama A&M. Haven't seen anything like that since 2019, I do believe, last time Alabama A&M lost 2 in a row. Maybe even 2018. Can't go. I don't remember the 2019 off the top of my head. I know they were 75, but I can't remember if there was ever 2 in a row during that season. So, what does Alabama A&M need to do to regroup, to salvage the rest of the season and put themselves in the best chance that they can if one of the teams in front of them in the in the SWAC East falters and opens the door back up for them?
Okay, the first thing I will tell you that they need to do, man, they need to do some soul searching. They really need to do some soul searching. I mean, that's just being plain. That's me being plain and simple. That's also me speaking for someone in the media who covers them, but also from myself being a former player in this conference. I will definitely tell you, coaches are telling them, hey, soul searching has to happen because we don't want you to check out for the rest of the season or whatever. Some things can happen. There are some crazy things that can happen. This is the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We've seen some crazy things happen. But at the same time, you have to do your part in this situation. So, yeah, they've got to definitely regroup and figure out some other things. And also, Drew, just to answer your question, the last time Alabama A&M lost back-to-back games, they had a 3-game skid at the beginning of 2018, Coach Maynard's first season, in which they lost a close game to North Alabama. They lost to Cincinnati, and then they lost the Gulf Coast Challenge to Southern by 2. But that's the first time they've ever lost back-to-back game. Well, I say first time. The last time they lost anything of back-to-back games since Coach Maynard has been there. But as far as this current team right now, yeah, man, they've got to do some soul searching. And the other thing, too, is that the road still does not be easy for them. Florida A&M is coming to Huntsville next week. I don't know
The
if I'll
number
be the
2
furthest
defense
or
in the
not.
conference.
Say it again.
The number 2 defense in the conference after they just faced the number 1 defense in the conference.
Exactly. So you can't tell me that Coach Willie Simmons and his staff are not going to look at this tape. You can't tell me they won't look at the tape from the Grambling game and maybe even go back to the Tuskegee game as well and be like, well, look, this is what worked. Let's try some wrinkles and do the same thing. So, that road is still going to be, quite tough. And I'm not exactly sure. Maybe you guys can speak on it. Anybody know if the 100s are making their way over to Huntsville?
As of right now, I've been told that they are not. That was a conversation I had with somebody. As of right now, it doesn't look like the 100. Some plans have changed. I don't know if that's because of the nature of the game is not as big, or it might just be some other things. But right now, the 100 is not. But that could change in the next 48 hours.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I had to ask that for the atmosphere situation or whatever. But besides that, no. I mean, you still have big games coming up. You have Florida A&M. You have your bye week. You have the Magic City Classic at the end of the month. And Alabama State or whatever, at first we were kind of writing them off, but somehow, some way, they're starting to pick up some victories here and there and trying to really play for Coach Donald Healy's job when you really look at it. Following that, you got a Mississippi Valley State team that has now won back-to-back games for the first time since 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And then after that, they go to Texas Southern. Texas Southern pulled off a victory against Southern yesterday, and they wrap up the season with Arkansas Pine Bluff. I'm, of course, for East Division, I mean, it's kind of slim to none now because they need some help from some other teams or whatever. But at the same time, too, yeah, Coach Maynard literally has to have his guys do some soul searching or whatever to finish the season out on a good note. I mean, I'm going way out on the limb or whatever. The possibility of getting an at-large bid or whatever for the playoffs, it kind of still is there. Maybe if they can't, win the East or what. There's still a lot of things ahead of them, but they've got to handle their business first and foremost and salvage some things. So that's why I say, yeah, soul searching needs to be done. First, it needs to be done on that offensive line. They've got to find a way to protect Aqeel Glass. Aqeel Glass wins you football games. He's going to win. He's going to win more football games than lose more football games for Alabama A&M. But you got to give them that time. And then we'll talk about it all day long. That defense needs to find a way to get better. The only good thing I can say about the defense is that they aren't the worst defense in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. There's about 5 other teams that give up more yards per game than them. But at the same time, it's still not a good situation to be with them defensively. So yeah, man, they got to find ways to still remain positive and do some good things, especially with the big games you got coming up, because there is no easy W on the rest of this schedule, especially after what some of these other teams have done now.
All right, Mo. Back in July, everybody laughed at me when I said these few statements. Number one, I said Valley would be relevant. Valley is the only team in the East, not named Jackson State, who controls their own destiny at this point in time. That's number one.
Yep.
And number two, I said it was going to be competitive. There were going to be a lot of wins, a lot of upsets. Texas Southern and Valley have more wins individually than UAPB and Bethune combined. Break those two statements down for me.
Who would have thought? Matter of fact, let's go ahead and screen record this, and we can turn around and play this back at the end of the year too.
Look, hey, Mo, let me look. Next week is the first of a couple of weekends where all 12 SWAC teams are playing. So we've got 6 SWAC games for the first time this year. So it'll be a big weekend next week. But we're also at the halfway point. So I'm going to get you out of here on this. I'm going to ask you to give us sort of your best and worst of the first half. Best, worst from the first half of the season. That's overall. It doesn't have to be in the conference only, but it can be just overall. And then you're not going, obviously we'll come back at the end of the season. But if you would, tell us your best and worst from the first half of the season among the 12 SWAC teams.
Among the 12 SWAC teams, well, right now I would have to say best is probably a 1A, 1B situation with both Jackson State and Prairie View. Of course, we've seen what Jackson State has come out the box and been able to do, and Coach Deion Sanders and his team have been able to kind of quiet the naysayers and the haters as they have been able to do. So, kudos to them on what they're doing. I'm hoping, though, that he can talk to them and let them know, hey, there's still a full season ahead of us, or really a half season ahead of us, and they have to do some other good things. I also will say this with Prairie View. Coach Dooley, my former wide receivers coach when I played at Southern University, who we knew was going to do great things as a head coach one day. He is doing a great job with that Prairie View team, and, they're looking pretty good. Could be a huge game come, November 13th, I think it is, when they take on Alcorn. Who knows? That could be de facto West Championship or whatever when you look at it from today's perspective. But the other thing I do like about Prairie View is that Coach Dooley has always liked to sling the ball around. Well, now they're committing to the run. So now you have to put together a game plan in which you have to stop Prairie View's rushing attack and their passing attack, and their defense, it's actually gotten better this year too. So I will definitely say that Prairie View and Jackson State have come out and been basically the best among the. And also, let me go ahead and let me throw this in there too. I also want to put kind of a next best. Let me go ahead and give props to Coach Dancy in Mississippi Valley. Everybody knows the history. Mississippi Valley is not the easiest place in the world to win. They are not. They're going to play teams very, very tough each and every time, but somehow they just can't get over the hill. All of a sudden now, Mississippi Valley is beating the North Carolina Central team who beat Alcorn or whatever, and then they beat a Bethune-Cookman team on the road. use that whole transitive property thing or whatever, Mississippi Valley technically would be at the top of the SWAC standings almost if you really come to think about it, So
Valley?
I will.
Valley?
I know, right? Valley, those Delta Devils, man. And like AD Drew said, they still control their own destiny in the Eastern Division. They're the only team besides Jackson State that can do that. Among the worst, I will say this. Right now, man, I am surprised that Bethune-Cookman is in the spot that they are. I really, really am surprised. And the only reason why I say that is because I know Coach Sims is a pretty good coach, but it also just seems like they just can't catch a break when it comes to winning those games at the end of the game. They just have some bad breaks, and they're facing adversity, and they're not overcoming their adversity on the field. So, right now I am really surprised that they – at the middle of October, they sit at 0-6. I am very, very, very surprised. But with that being said, they host Prairie View on next week. You can almost look at it as being a trap game for Prairie View. So Prairie View's got to bring their A game when they go down to Daytona Beach for a game that starts at 3 p.m. over there, in the land of the Wildcats. Matter of fact, I think it might be a 4 p.m. game. Depends on looking
I
at
saw
the
1
schedule or
o'clock.
whatever.
I just saw something on Bethune
Cool.
site, and it said 1 p.m. Eastern, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, ESPN has it listed at 3-4-ish, so who knows what time that game actually is. But, so with that being said, Bethune-Cookman, if you want to find a way to turn things around, hey, knock off the team that's currently ranked number 1 in the West, and, we'll see how it goes from there. But the best thing about the SWAC, and I've been telling you guys this all year long, is that every week offers up something great that you may have not seen coming or whatever, and we're going to get that each and every week. Got Southern Pine Bluff next week, FAM, Alabama A&M, Jackson State, Alabama State. You don't think Jackson State's thinking about the revenge tour from what they did back in the spring? And, Alcorn, Mississippi Valley, Texas Southern Grambling, PV, Bethune-Cookman. Every one of those games, I think, will have some sort of interest when it comes to the standings and also interest among HBCU football fans.
Well said. Well said. Great stuff out there, guys. Make sure you're following Mo Carter on Twitter. Great packages over the weekend, by the way, not only from A&M and Jackson State, but also A&T in North Alabama. Obviously, North Alabama's in your coverage area. So,
correct.
There was a lot of empty seats in that North Carolina A&T stadium. So I will laugh about that. And just kind of, what's going on with you, Aggie Nation? You guys need to show up. That was a good game that you missed out on, just because it was
absolutely. What's interesting is that North Alabama is probably the best first quarter and second quarter team I've ever seen in all of the FCS. They just break down after the second quarter. After halftime or whatever. They had leads on Nicholls State, they had leads on Campbell, and they were tied with Southeastern. And all of a sudden they just lose in double-digit fashion to all those teams or whatever. It was interesting to see A&T go up and to North Alabama make the resurgence and actually took a late lead in that game.
They took a lead, yeah.
But then, they took a late lead in that game or whatever, but A&T was able to pull it out. North Alabama actually had a chance to win the game. They got down to, I think, the 30-yard line or so and then threw an interception or whatever. So, they definitely gave North Carolina A&T a scare overall with that. But really, really good game. Kudos to our sister station for hooking us up with those highlights from yesterday.
Yeah. All right, guys. Make sure you're following Mo Carter out there. WZDX in Huntsville, Alabama. Mo, I'm sure we'll talk later because the Rattlers are coming to town, and I know my guys at the O&G Strike Zone, they want to get you in to talk about that one. So I'm sure we'll talk later in the week about that. So, hey, appreciate your time tonight. Have a good show. I'm sure you're doing a live show tonight, I'm sure, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Getting ready for Fox 54 Sports Extra at 10 p.m. Central. Hey, if you want to go ahead and check it out, you can actually go to fox54.com, hit watch live at 10 p.m. Central, 11 Eastern, and you can see our show in its entirety if you want to watch it online.
Alabama State waving the flag for football schools in the state. Might have been the only Alabama school that won a game over the weekend.
I think only 3 won. I think Troy won and UAB. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Alabama State, UAB, and Troy. Yeah, they're the only Alabama schools that won. yesterday. And heck, you even go further, Deontay Wilder lost last night. So that was, it was a rough night for Alabama sports.
So, man, I tell you what, boy, that's a rough one, man. All right, well, you guys be safe, and it's just 1 week, folks, in Alabama. It's just 1 week. Come back off the bridge. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. Hey, Mo, thanks for your time. All right. Hey, we're gonna take a short break. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Brian and AD. We'll be back right after these words.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Ooh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless. Pick something we all like.
Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Thank you guys for what...
Hey, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford and AD Drew here. Want to appreciate or say we appreciate rather Mo Carter for coming in and joining us and talking with us. Want to thank you guys who are out there watching us on YouTube and Facebook. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel already and hit that notification so that way when we send out shows from the Jericho broadcast networks, not just sports, we got some other really good shows that are part of the family. You'll get notifications about that. And then if you are like our friend Carol Sharp, who signed up for the JBN app, you can just go to your Google or Apple Play Store, just search my JBN, my BCSN, and go download the app and register. Interesting discussions from some of our commenters. Drew, good friend of the program, Michael Road Dog Reed, told us that Texas Southern was going to wreck a lot of people's parlays this weekend. Did he do that?
All I'm going to say is I wish I would have taken them. I told you I was staying away from that game. I wish I would not have now.
Right.
Because Texas Southern has been so when you look at them and you take them, they disappoint you. When you don't take them, they surprise you like this.
Right. SWAC fans on YouTube just reminding us that all this talk about Valley means nothing because you can't see Valley beating Jackson State and FAMU. And we don't know what we'll get
I couldn't
from
see
Bama
Bethune
State.
being 0-6 either, but they are.
Look, I'm looking at Valley's. Valley's got Alcorn. Again, I'm just gonna say this for the people in the back, right? Drew tried to tell you, you know, but y'all are out there listening to Mike Washington tell, you know, and laughing. Anyway, they got 4 of the next 5 weeks are at home for Valley. Alcorn, FAMU, Jackson State, Alabama State. And then they go on the road to Alabama A&M. I was about to make a bold prediction and say Valley's gonna win 2 of those 4, but they're gonna win one of those 4. I'm just gonna put that out there. They're not gonna go 0-4 at home. So the question is, who's gonna travel to Valley and trip over themselves? I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there. Somebody will.
I'll make the bold prediction.
Oh, don't do it, Drew. Don't do it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I say, but I think it's gonna start this week.
Whoa. Ooh, what's the history? What's the history there between Alcorn and Valley?
In-state rival.
In-state? Yeah. Have to reach out to Charles Edmond and kind of ask him about that. Go ahead.
What were you about to say? I'm looking it up as you talk.
Yeah, we will get into the subject of North Carolina A&T's. Jamie Walker, I know he's out there watching us. Good friend of the program, did a great job calling the Clark Atlanta game against Allen University. Clark got a 21-12 win, I believe. That was a great call by Jamie. Jamie, what's going on with the Aggies, man? What was the attendance? He called Aggie Nation out the week before. Told you guys that you had to do a little bit better. From what I saw from the videos in that piece from Mo Carter, I saw a lot of empty seats. Now, you know, a lot of people will say that the PWIs from the FCS level don't travel. I don't know how accurate that is. You know, I think that may be a broad sweeping generalization, but maybe it just is in the Big South. But regardless of who your opponent is, I got to think, look, North Carolina A&T is supposed to be one of the elite HBCU programs, right? At least that's what I've heard for the last 2-3 years. Why aren't you showing up? Show up. Show up and show out. You know, your guys are out there playing. They're playing hard for the program. They're trying to get to the FCS playoffs, right? Show up for them. You know, don't wait till homecoming or some other HBCU game to show up. That's just my 2 cents on the matter, Drew.
Bryant, Valley has won one of the last 7, one of the last 8 versus Alcorn. That win occurred in 2012. We said something earlier about 2012. That win was at home against Valley. We're not counting last year's forfeit, which actually technically gives them 2 wins against Alcorn. So
that 2012 was the year, I think, when they won 3 in a row. Look what's coming up here against Alcorn. Look what's coming up. A chance to go 3 in a row again. The synergy of that is kind of nasty if you think about it. I know we got Chris Ferguson coming up a little bit. Chris covers CIAA football for D2football.com. I know he's also written some good stuff for HBCU Game Day as well. The CIAA, Drew, one of my big disappointments for the first half of the year. How about the CIAA South? I'm just gonna wrap a bow around the CIAA South in its entirety. And I'm talking Johnson C. Smith, Livingstone, St. Aug, who are still all winless. Winston-Salem State finally got a win, but then they gave up 73 points to Shawan the other week. So you had a contest where Fayetteville State played Shaw, and on October 9th, that game may very well have decided who represents the South Division in the CIAA championship game. Fayetteville State went on the road, beat Shaw 15-12. We'll talk to Chris about that coming up. One of my big
is that any different than the Jackson State FAMU game may actually be the game that decides the SWAC East, and that was the first game of the season?
A lot of games left to play, but could be.
A lot of game. I'm just saying, if everything happens like everybody says it's going to happen, is that any different?
Yeah. Well, and then on the North Division, now the one thing we can't say, even though the North Division has been a little bit stronger in the CIAA, Bowie State with a big win, 14-3 over Shawan. Shawan came into the ball game averaging 51 points a game. Bowie was averaging 30 a game, I think, but more importantly, their defense was only giving up about 12 to 14 points, something like that.
Yes.
And they went on the road, got a late defensive touchdown. I think it was Josh Pryor got a scoop and score to make it 14-3. But otherwise, we're talking a 7-3 ball game. And so Bowie State went on the road, got a big win. They've won 5 in a row now after losing the first game of the season to Delaware State. And so I believe they have a CIAA streak still running right now, Drew, in terms of wins. So that's here. Okay, it looks like Chris is here. So let's see if we can bring in Chris Ferguson from D2football.com. And we're going to get into talking about the CIAA and the action. Of course, the CIAA just coming off of the North versus South battles that were taking place in week 4 and 5. The North won each of those weeks 4 games to 2. But again, given how bad the South is overall, that's a tough situation. All right. Let's see. Well, Drew, are we still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, I couldn't tell because you had this look like you were frozen, and I was like, okay, is Drew frozen? Well,
thought you was here by yourself, man.
Yeah, I thought I was here. I was talking to myself.
Well,
Drew,
I was waiting. You bring Chris in. I'm like, I didn't want to talk over him coming in, so I just kind of sat there.
Give one of your mid-season disappointments or positives from the mid-season point, Drew. Give one of them.
I've already done who would have thought? How about they are who we thought they were?
Great quote by the late
Dennis Green.
Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
And we let them off the hook. I'm going to give this number 1 to Grambling. Grambling, slow start. How many years have we talked about Grambling getting off to such a slow start and then becoming relevant at this time of the year, Brian?
At least the last.
And you and I know you have called it personally.
Yeah. 2019, 2018. I think 2017 they actually Yeah, I don't think that applied then.
So that's my team on the. They are who we thought they were at the division at the division one level. On the small school level, and this is kind of tough, but Fayetteville State, man,
what's wrong with
they are
Fayetteville
just
State? They're
kind of
4-1.
they're 4-1, but they really are they are they're dominating the South, but they I guess because they don't have that cachet, that wow factor that you're looking at where you really think they can challenge a team in the North. Fayetteville State is doing exactly what they have done the last 3 years or so. They are who we thought they were.
You know what's hurting. The schedulers are hurting Fayetteville State. Because look at who they play. Look, the cross division, or the what do you call it? The cross. Cross
Yeah,
division. They played
go ahead.
Virginia State and Lincoln, right? I mean, Virginia State gave them a pretty competitive game, 28-14, but then they beat Lincoln 46-9, right? They didn't have to play Union. They didn't have to play Bowie. They didn't have to play Shawan. I mean, that's who probably. I mean, imagine if Fayetteville State plays one of those games or one of those teams and gets a win. What are we thinking of Fayetteville State differently, right? We
But
probably
correct me
are.
if I'm wrong. Didn't Bowie have a favorable schedule 2 years ago like that, where they did not play any of the top teams in the South? And we gave Bowie all the credit in the world. But of course, we know the Northern Division is a tougher division to start with.
Right, right.
So I'm just saying, and it's cyclical. You know, Alabama A&M had a schedule that was favorable for them, but
Cyclical.
unfortunately, they have not been able to handle their business with that schedule.
Cyclical. Well, look, we brought it. We got the right person in to kind of talk to us about the cyclical scheduling. Joining us right now, a good friend of the program, Chris Ferguson. Chris, we were just debating this scheduling thing that Fayetteville State seems to commonly get stuck with, where they don't ever play the top teams in the North. What are your thoughts on? We were just talking about first half disappointments and positives, and Drew was saying Fayetteville State's one of his disappointments. I don't know, but what's your take on
disappointment? I said they are who we thought they were.
Oh, okay. What's your thought on Fayetteville State, Chris?
I mean,
And
Fayetteville
scheduling.
has. So I'm looking. I was actually. I was tuned in while I was kind of like trying to figure everything out here, and I happened to go and take a peek at Fayetteville State's schedule. 2017, they played and lost to Virginia Union, which was one of the better teams in the North, in the crossover. 2018, they played Chowan, that was a high-powered offense, and they won a shootout. That's not the first time that they played Chowan and won in a shootout in recent memory. I mean, and then 2019, Chowan was really down, and they beat them 66-20, and they played Elizabeth City, which, didn't play very well in 2019 either. Um, Fayetteville State doesn't have that signature win, and I would just say that that's a combination. That's a number of factors. Some of that is they play a good North team, and they end up in these shootouts. And also, Fayetteville State doesn't win out of conference. It's not like you have like Shaw will occasionally win a game out of conference, and not necessarily against a HBCU, and Chowan did this year, and Bowie State as well this year. So Fayetteville State is kind of who we thought they were. They'll end up being a 8-2 team, or a 9-2 team, and those two losses will be against teams that they need to win to really impress people. They'll be like a 9-2 team that won't make it probably into the D2Football.com poll, and they might be a 9-2 team that at the end of the season that should they lose to Bowie, that is still receiving votes in the coaches poll just because of who they win against, and who they can't really get that big win against as the season goes on. So
Yeah. So the big game, obviously this week. Well, two big games. I mean, let's call them what they were. I mean, the North and the South had a big game against the top two teams in the standings. You had Bowie State traveling to Chowan, and then you had Fayetteville State traveling to Shaw, and the road teams got victories. Defense travels. I told you, Drew. I'm telling you, that's going to be the show name. You just don't know it yet. Defense travels. Let's talk. I mean, okay, so look, 51 points average for Chowan, 30-point average for Bowie. We've seen these two teams have an offensive battle. What was that, 2019? Or was it 2018 when Chowan beat Bowie? Which year was that?
2018.
Yeah, I think Bowie exacted some revenge in 2019, if I recall, right?
That would be correct.
Yeah. So look, we've seen offense. Well, I don't think we've seen a 14-3 with a defensive touchdown. Explain what we saw. Those who had a chance to see it, I go to the CIAA network, go watch that game, go rewatch that game, because that was a heck of a contest. What did we see, Chris?
So I actually went to this game, and the first half you kind of saw Chowan having a little bit of success on offense, but there was a costly fumble by Bryce Witt, really just scrambling and probably doing a little bit too much on third down, and that was your scoop and score that Bowie State had. And I mean, both teams have like this incredible pass rush. That's something that Chowan had consistently been having issues with over the last couple of seasons. But I mean, you kind of saw an equivalent pass rush from what Bowie State had, and the difference I think is just that Bryce Witt is such a big guy that he can be a little difficult to pull down. Uh, but he hadn't really seen a pressure like Bowie State kind of brought to that game, and it wasn't that they did anything different. It was just that that's what these guys do. I mean, they're just that good at it. It's a very high level Division II defense for them. So, Chowan, I kind of wrote that if Chowan wants to win this game, they can't have turnovers, because that will mean that they have good ball control, or they're willing to the field position. And unfortunately, Bryce Witt had both the turnovers, both were fumbles, and Bowie made them pay in one, and then the other one was the drive where they ended up scoring at the end of the game was aided by some, very untimely penalties. I mean, the unsportsmanlike conduct on third down, 3rd and 20. Yeah, you're excited, but get off the field. Give your offense a chance, and you kind of hate to see that. And then another penalty, I think it was a face mask penalty on a big run by Khalil Wilkins for Bowie that extended big yardage for even more. I mean, this game really came down to who made less mistakes, and Bowie was the one who made less mistakes. They were. It was a really good game though.
Yeah, when you go inside the numbers and you go back and look, I mean, Chowan really, more first downs, both passing and rushing, total yards, rushing and passing. I mean, they stymied Bowie probably unlike anything that we've seen. I mean, they held Bowie to 112 yards of total offense. I mean, now when you hold somebody to 112 yards of total offense, now let's flip it on the other side. Look, Chowan was held to 167. Most games, I mean, that was a great game, but 112 yards of total offense. You forced him to punt 8 times, and like you said, it comes down to 2 fumbles. 2 fumbles, the timeliness of the penalties. I mean, both teams committed double-digit penalties, but when you commit the penalties matter, right? And the
Right.
fumbles, when you fumble, I mean, your fumble, you led to a scoop and score. I mean, so, and sadly, we won't get a chance to have a repeat of this game. There's no, winner takes all. Bowie, it controls their
No
destiny.
wild
I mean,
card.
no wild card. I mean, just you have to hope maybe Shawan gets an opportunity as an at-large bid. If they keep winning and keep putting up production the way they've
Right.
done it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of Bowie's. Look, you said it all. I need to get out of the way. You said it all right there. Let's flip it over to the South. My disappointment of the season has been the South and the fact that up until this past Saturday, everybody was winless. 4 teams were winless except for Winston-Salem.
They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, well, look, that's got to make you feel proud. That's a good comeback for Winston. After you give up 73 to turn around and get a win the next week, that's impressive. That's impressive. But the matchup was Fayetteville State and Shaw. What do we see? What do we see from that game, Chris?
So there's a stat line that I think is really important to highlight here. Third down conversions. Fayetteville State, 1 of 12. Shaw, 2 of 14. This is a game that there was certainly impact from weather because both teams, they do like to pass the ball, and they just really didn't have that success passing the ball. And I think weather certainly played an impact. I mean, they both have great secondaries, but to see something like this happen where, Shaw only had 21 yards passing, 416, and Fayetteville State 99 yards passing. I think the weather played a pretty big factor here. And so, Shaw gets the red zones 3 for 4, but 3 field goals, right? And Fayetteville State, putting a touchdown on the board certainly helped their cause. But this was tough to watch. I think for a variety of reasons. I was following Twitter and I saw where there was a very controversial call with the interception that Shaw believed that they had an interception that would have stopped a Fayetteville State drive, and the officials ruled otherwise, and also tacked on an unsportsmanlike penalty that sort of led to a Fayetteville State score. And these were less than ideal conditions, and this is kind of what you have. And for whatever reason, the Fayetteville State Shaw game just tends to end up in unfavorable weather conditions. I mean, if we talk about this game, we talk about, I think it was like 2015, the Hurricane game, where they decided to go ahead and play the game, and it's like 7-6 in a game that they probably should have postponed. It's unfortunate that we couldn't even have ideal conditions for a game like this, much like what you kind of saw with Chowan and Bowie State. It was a little bit better there, but in the end, Fayetteville State took advantage of the opportunities provided to them, and but these are the rushing game. Pretty standard for Fayetteville State, but overall, this is not this is less than stellar numbers for what you want out of a division leader, in my opinion.
Now, Chris, we know you're a CIAA expert, but you follow Division II football, especially the HBCUs in Division II football. It may be the 1st of October, but you have to start thinking potential playoffs and playoff positioning. Now, the SIAC and the CIAA are usually in there with the, I believe it's the SAC and the, what's the 4th conference?
Gulf South.
Gulf South Conference. Now, usually you'll get your CIAA champion and your SIAC champion in there as preferred qualifiers, meaning they have to finish 9 or higher. Now, assuming they both get in, and let's take that assumption further, it's going to have to be Bowie from the CIAA North and either the winner of Albany State and Savannah in the SIAC East, because I don't think an SIAC West opponent will qualify to get into the playoffs. Can we get a third HBCU in, i.e., Shawan, since they're sitting in second place, or the loser of an Albany State, Savannah State into the playoffs?
Well, there are a couple of things to sort out here. There's this thing called earned access. So in the playoffs, you have the top 7 teams in a region are the ones who play. The 1 seed get to bye, and 2 through 7 play in the first round. The 8th seed, should no other team in a conference have a team in the top 7 and they end up 8th, then they can bump the 7th seed out via what we call earned access. So there are no, like, unlike like FCS ball, which many of your
is what
viewers may
happened
be
to
familiar with.
Virginia Union. Well, no, Virginia State a couple of years ago. They got bumped out by someone, if I remember that correctly.
No,
Back in 19.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while since that happened. I think the last time it happened was probably 2014, where Winston State got left out at 9-2, and it was a 6-team playoff for the region at that point. Actually, you're right. I think it was Virginia Union that got bumped out some time ago. And I believe it was for the SIAC to get in because they were in that earned access territory. The problem is twofold. Number one is the SIAC hasn't had a playoff qualifier for at least like 2-3 seasons now. And the best shot for that, I think, is going to be Albany State. They have better, quite honestly, they do have better style points. You know, they lost to Valdosta by, 17?
Yeah. 21-3, I believe it was the final.
Yeah, 21-3, right? And Savannah State just got blown out by Valdosta State. I mean, they don't look at win margins supposedly by the committee, but it's almost like the winner of that game is going to have the upper hand. And Albany State does have some better out of conference wins too than Savannah does. So to me, Albany is that team. If they can't get in, I don't think the SIAC team gets in. And another reason why I say that is because if you look at the Gulf South right now, you've got West Alabama undefeated, Valdosta undefeated, West Florida undefeated, and West Georgia with 1 loss to a fellow Gulf South member. So it's very likely that you're going to probably have 3 teams out of that conference, and then you've got the SAC South Atlantic, who's going to at least have Wingate, and they've got some teams as well that have some wins over the CIAA too. So it kind of leaves us in this really precarious situation because can the SIAC bump somebody out? Like Albany State, can they get to 7? And that's a question. The other thing though is the Chowan question, because Chowan does have some wins against the South Atlantic Conference, and could they sneak in as a 6 or a 7? I think so. At 9, if 9-1 is their record at the end, then I think they could sneak in as a 6 or 7 seed, and preferably you want them at 6. You don't want them at 7 and at risk of being bumped out. So it is possible. It is certainly possible. Okay, so here's the South Atlantic right now. Wingate 5-0, Catawba 4-0. So those 2 teams got to play each other. You could have somebody who is 1 loss, but then they've got some pretty challenging individual teams in Newberry, Mars Hill, Lenore Ryan, even though they're kind of slipping, you can't count them out for an upset. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible to get 2 HBCUs in out of the 3 contenders, or 2 HBCUs and so on.
But not 3.
I don't see 3 happening. I think that if you even have there's a possibility that you have 3 from the Gulf South, possibly 4, and 2 from the South Atlantic. That's 6.
That's 6 right there.
And what will probably happen is 3 from the Gulf South, 2 from the South Atlantic, and 2 spots for the HBCUs plus Chowan, CIAA and SIAC schools. That's what I see. And I guess I would qualify that too by, you've got, who did they play? Who did Chowan play? I mean, you've got Mars Hill sitting at 4-2 that they defeated, and you've got Saginaw Valley, who defeated a ranked Texas A&M Commerce that Bowie State defeated. So they're getting some bumps here, and that
Chowan has a good resume, is what you're saying.
They have a pretty decent resume. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's not. It's better than what you would expect from a CIAA team out of conference, and so it's not far fetched to think that there's 3 teams. I just think that the Gulf South's really got to beat up on each other, or maybe Catawba or Wingate slips and gets to 2 losses.
All right. Got a few people in the chat room shouting out Livingstone getting the first win on homecoming. Winston-Salem State gets their first win. So I want to apologize for my earlier rant. There's only 2 winless teams in the South Division. My apologies. St. Aug and Johnson C. Smith still winless. But the overall disappointment still is there for the South. So I won't retract that statement. But,
but congratulations. Is an understatement.
Yeah, congratulations. I mean, I'm gonna chalk this up and let's just say the pandemic really affected some of those programs, and hopefully you all will be better going forward into 2022. Let me get you out of here on this, Chris. Midway point of the season overall. I want you to share your best and worst that we've seen from the first half of the season.
Best and worst. I guess I would say that the best of the season has been Bowie State's defense. This is a defense that you don't expect to see. Expect to stop people, right? But they actually cause turnovers and score on those turnovers. And this past Saturday was not an anomaly. They've done this. They did this twice in New Haven. Their defense, to me, is a legit, national championship contender defense. That's
Is it better than last year? Is it better than 2019?
It's better than 2019. It's better than 2019. So to me, this is an excellent defense. The worst of what I have seen is probably kind of what you just mentioned, the South. To have 4 teams in the shape that they're in is very difficult, and it's not even that. It's the type of losses that they've taken. Bluefield State, first-year program. Allen, first year in Division II. These are games that they should be winning, and as established programs, and they're not winning even those games. So to me, I think that that's the downside to this. And I guess I would kind of mention, I think one of the successes that we've seen is it's kind of nice to have seen Elizabeth City kind of, getting something out of this season. I already got 2 wins on the season and showing some real grit. Really, really young team. But offensively, I mean, they do have some fun weapons. Defensively, they've got some real talent that I think is going to serve them very well going forward if they can just build on it. I think that's been one of the bigger surprises. We don't want to talk about Winston-Salem State. I mean, that's just a train wreck right now. But it was nice to see that they, at least I think they've hit rock bottom with Chowan now and go for 2 straight next week. But boy, they just continue to take these steps back, and it's just nice to see a reprieve there. But that would be my best and the worst.
All right. This upcoming next weekend, I guess if I had to look at the highlight game, it's probably going to be Virginia State at Bowie. Chowan hosts Virginia Union, but I'd probably say Virginia State, always with a good program. Usually, I think they're 2-1 in the conference. I was just looking at the standings here. They're sitting at 2-1, but 2-3 overall. They've won 2 in a row, so trending in the right direction is Virginia State. So that's probably your feature game in the CIAA, and then everyone else is kind of taking shots at each other. We didn't get a chance to talk about the North versus the South. So, I mean, any quick thoughts about that? That was last 2 weekends where the North won those 4-2. We probably shouldn't be surprised at that, I guess, should we?
No.
All right.
No.
Are you traveling anywhere this upcoming Saturday?
No, I will be turning into the Red Zone channel this weekend.
You are the Red Zone channel. Chris, what are you talking about? You are the Red Zone channel.
That's what this. Yeah, it'll be full on. Watching games remotely and tuning into as many games as I possibly can. The South versus the North. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. The middle ground there was Elizabeth City. They won 2 games there. Everybody else were shutouts, blowouts. Whether it's the bottom tier of the South or Lincoln as really the one team that couldn't pull off a win for the North to sweep. It is as expected. I don't really see, other than maybe Winston State going forward into next year with a new coach probably improving. But John C. Smith, St. Aug. Same thing.
Ooh. Yeah.
It's Livingstone is kind of on the rise. They've been in a lot of games this year, but they just haven't been able to close. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do as well. I think that they're certainly on the path forward, but I think a lot of what you just said was right. The pandemic really hasn't served them very well, and we're just seeing the effects of that this far in. And I hope that they are able to take the rest of these games and improve upon that to see kind of what they have going into the offseason.
Well, we will be tuned in. If you are not following Chris on Twitter at D2KFerg, F-E-R-G, you should be, because especially on Saturday, he's the best follow in Black college football. Saturday afternoons, just put him on, put little notifications on your phone, so that way as Chris, the Red Zone channel of the CIAA, is going and he's tweeting out updates and shooting you video highlights, you can follow everything. That is, if you aren't at a game or watching your game, follow Chris. That's the best thing that you should be doing on Saturday afternoons for the CIAA. So, all right, we're rooting for wins, Chris. I don't want to see anybody go winless. So, let's go. Hold on, let me make sure. Let's go Lincoln, PA. Let's go St. Aug. Let's go Johnson C. Smith. You got about 4 weeks left, 4 to 5 weeks. Get wins. Get a win.
Well, we know one of them two. We know one of those 3 will get one because they got a head-to-head.
Yes.
So
yes.
At worst, we can only have 2.
Yes, exactly. So let's go. Somebody's got to get a win. We're rooting for you guys. All right. Chris, thanks for your time. All right. We appreciate you. We'll be back with a short wrap-up in a moment. You're watching the BCSN Sports, blah, blah. What are we? The BCSN SportsWrap. Brian and AD. We'll be back in a moment.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
return to Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Parish, we take the pain out of being heard.
All right. Thanks again to Mo Carter and Chris Ferguson for joining us. Thank you, you guys who are watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. We appreciate you. Please make sure you subscribe to those channels and those pages. Now is for the moment. It's the brand new BCSN Top 5 rankings. This is not a poll. This is a ranking. Rankings based on analytics. Numbers never lie. Drew,
all right,
let's
here
start
we go.
with
We'll
the
start
under D1. Under D1 top 5.
We start off with the under D1s. Coming in at number 5, 4-1 record, 557 points is Fayetteville State. Coming in at number 4, 5-1 record, 654 points is Savannah State. Coming in at number 3, also at 5-1, 705 points, Bowie State. Number 2, 5-1, 725 points, Albany State. And remaining at number 1, 5-0, 790 points are the Langston Lions.
Lane College dropped out. That's the one school that I think of that was in the top 5 that dropped out.
That would be correct. Fayetteville replaced them.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the major, our Division I top 5 rankings, Drew. Here we go.
All right. And if you guessed it, Alabama A&M did drop out of the top 5 for this week. So coming in at number 5 with a 3-2 record, 358 points, North Carolina A&T. Coming in at number 4, 3-2 record, 362 points, Norfolk State. Coming in at number 3, 3-2 record, 400 points, Alcorn State. Coming in at number 2, drum roll please, y'all, 4-1 record, 557 points is Jackson State.
What?
Remaining number 1 with a 4-1 record, 561 points. That's only a 5-point difference, everybody. Prairie View A&M, and I will attribute that 5-point difference based on the strength of schedule between of these two teams individually.
Interesting you said that, because Jackson State has played a Division II team. Prairie View A&M has not.
And that's the difference.
And that strength is now. What are we saying? That will level itself out probably at some point during the season. Probably, right? We'll see. Numbers never lie. Our formula doesn't lie. It may be controversial, but it never lies.
It's consistent.
So it is consistent. We might be the only entity that doesn't have Jackson State ranked number 1, because we're not a poll. You know, this is not no people's opinions here. These are just what the numbers say. The numbers say Prairie View A&M, they had a bye week. They were number 1 last week. They shouldn't lose their spot. They didn't play anybody. All right, that's going to do it for this show. We appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching us live. We're going to record a show a little bit later tomorrow and probably drop it later in the week, a more comprehensive mid-season where we give out some mid-season awards and things like that, and then we kind of get ready for the upcoming week. So make sure you guys check that out. But you will be notified if you've already liked, subscribed, downloaded, shared. Did I miss one? No.
Donate.
Oh, donate. myjbn.com/support is where you can donate this beautiful project that we have. myjbn.com/support. All right, that's
And
going
I
to do
want
it
to see
for
the
our
comments
show.
of those rankings. Let us know, even though we're ready to sign off, still tell us what you feel about those rankings.
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter or Facebook at MyBCSN1, the number 1. We'll take a look at some of the comments, and we'll react to a few of those comments that we see for the next show that we do. We'll record it tomorrow and air it later in the week. All right. For my partner, AD Drew, I want to thank our producer back in the studio, Roy Evans. I am Brian Fulford. You've been watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Thanks for watching. Good night. Peace out.
I holla.
But my beats, they are hard.